What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel for another Steam Deck video. Specifically, we're doing the Steam Deck OLED in this video because I kind of wanted to highlight some games, 12 games in this video that I've been taking advantage of that 90Hz screen and playing games over 60 FPS when it comes to the Steam Deck OLED in handheld mode. Of course, when you're docked, you can play with the LCD on another monitor at higher FPS, but that's not really how I deal with the handhelds. I use them as handhelds. So a screen like this means a lot for me. Now, the first thing is Vampire Survivors. Now, not only have I played this game a good bit at 90 FPS, just solid, no matter how crazy things really get, it's more to highlight indie games in general. Any indie game, any easy to run game. I could put hundreds of games on this list that you could run over 60 FPS on your Steam Deck OLED or your LCD, and that would just be ridiculous. So yeah, Vampire Survivors is one I've been playing, but also just any obviously easy to run game. You can take advantage of the additional FPS. Now, something like Ori Will of the Wisp as well, which is my second game. One of my favorite platformers really of the past few years. It's I liked it a lot better than the first one, and it's another game that not only takes advantage of the higher FPS, you can basically just lock yourself at 90 for the 90Hz screen, but it also handles HDR really well. So this is a title that works great at 90 FPS, super smooth, and also can look fantastic in HDR on your Steam Deck OLED. Now, the third one would be Chorus. This is a space shooter from quite a few years ago, but it's always been kind of one of my favorites. It scratched a little bit of an itch I had when it came out to really play some space shooter arcade style gaming, and this one really did pretty well, and with some really nice graphics and stuff also, and a decent little story that goes along with everything. So I've actually been kind of replaying through this game on the Steam Deck OLED. Looks great on the screen, and the higher FPS, especially 90Hz lock handheld, is great. Now, another space shooter would be Star Wars Squadrons here, and this is another one of my favorites. I thought this was a pretty decent game when it came out, and you didn't have to pay for a lot of microtransactions or anything. It was a $40 game, full release, and I really enjoyed playing it. I never really finished it, so I jumped in on the Steam Deck OLED because I knew it would get a decent FPS, and it's another one that plays fantastic on the OLED screen, also takes advantage of the high frame rate, and it feels awesome to play this handheld using the Steam Deck screen. So another one I wanted to highlight here. Now, another Star Wars one would be Battlefront 2. This game also runs very well on the Steam Deck and the OLED here, and even though different maps and different areas are going to act differently, for the most part I'm able to stay above 60 FPS in this game, sometimes up to 100, 120 if we're indoors or whatever. So definitely a game that takes advantage of the additional FPS capabilities of the 90Hz screen on the Steam Deck OLED. So another favorite that I've had fun kind of jumping back into lately and playing some handheld. Alright, another one would be Apex Legends. Look, I quit playing Apex Legends quite a while ago. It's not really my thing anymore, but it runs great on the Steam Deck. We all know it's had great performance over on the Steam Deck LCD. So I jumped in on the OLED just to see how it felt, and it's super smooth. Great frame times. You can lock this thing to 90Hz. You will drop under from time to time, depends on where you're at and what all's going on screen, but you can get a great experience out of this game on the Steam Deck OLED, and at the higher refresh rate, feels much better than over on the LCD and handheld. Now, another great one is Titanfall 2. I still love Titanfall 2 multiplayer. The story for this game was actually pretty good as well when it came out, and it also performs great on the Steam Deck. This has been one of my favorites to play even on the LCD, but being able to go handheld mode and play, you know, the 90, the 100 FPS, it really just looks better, feels better, especially when you're playing with a controller, of course, being handheld all the time. And this is definitely a title I would say I spent a good bit of time with the past couple months on the OLED, enjoying that higher refresh rate. Now, Sonic Superstars was on my 12 top games of 2023. It's only about a 6-hour game, but if you're a fan of Sonic 2D side-scrollers, this is actually a pretty decent title, and I found myself kind of going back and replaying a lot of the levels and doing some going to areas I haven't gone to before and that kind of stuff, because there's a lot packed into these levels, and it's been a great experience on the Steam Deck OLED. You can basically lock yourself to 90 FPS and get a great experience, and of course, being a colorful game, looks great on the OLED as well. Now, Half-Life got a little bit of extra life last year as Valve did some work to this game, and a lot of people were jumping on, and I hadn't messed around with this game in forever, so I did jump on the Steam Deck, and yeah, you're going to get a very high frame rate, a very good experience for the most part from what I've seen in this game. Of course, it's not hard to run, just like the indie games that we talked about in the beginning, but yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to jump into a title like this on the Steam Deck handheld and get yourself 100 FPS, 90 FPS on the OLED. Now, next up we have Splitgate. This game's not as popular as it was, but there's still a good amount of people on. I've always really liked the multiplayer in this. I thought it was pretty good, and it scratched a lot of itch that Halo wasn't scratching for a while, but I think it took a hit when Infinite came out. But either way, it's a game that, depending on the map and what's going on, I could play anywhere from 60, 65 FPS all the way up to 100 FPS or more, just really depending. And it's another title that just feels great handheld with the higher refresh rate, feels much better than the LCD when I was playing it, handheld a lot at launch. Now, Monster Hunter Rise. Now, I'm a big fan of Monster Hunter. I've been playing Rise in World quite a bit, especially lately, and I gotta say the Steam Deck OLED has been a great place to jump back into Rise and back into Monster Hunter World and get a higher FPS here. Again, this game played great on the LCD, but the bigger screen here on the OLED, the being an OLED and more colorful, but on top of that, taking advantage of that higher refresh rate. I'm all about that frame rate and refresh rate, and if it's smooth frame time, the OLED's performing and giving a better experience. Now, also, we have Monster Hunter World here, which I wanted to throw in. And of course, I could get down to 60 FPS on these lower settings and bounce back up. But really, depending on where I'm at, I do tend to stay above 60 and go all the way up into the 80s. And this has been another game I've had a blast jumping back into since I had played it originally on Xbox. And the Steam Deck OLED can play this game in HDR, so it looks great that way. And we're also taking advantage of the 90 Hz screen. So my 12th and final game I've definitely been checking out and taking advantage of the OLED. But yeah, for the most part, there's a lot of games that you can run, especially older titles, easier to run titles at 90 FPS or above 60 FPS in the handheld. And I really do like taking advantage of the 90 Hz screen. Being a big PC gamer, having gaming PCs in the house to play on, having 240 Hz monitors, I really do appreciate frame rate and frame times. And all of these games have great frame times, great frame rates, and I've been able to take advantage of above 60 gameplay on the Steam Deck OLED, and it feels much better than over on the older LCD. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming to check out the video. As always, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.